Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Do I have Marcus Wilson, the funny man who does tricks, on the line with me?
Yes, you do.
Hi, Mr. Marcus. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm okay. You sound a little down.
No, this is just how I sound. I'm doing great.
All right, so tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Who I am and what I do. I am a comedy juggler. I do a comedy juggling stunt show. Let's see. I've been married 25 years. I got 4 kids. I work out of Utah. I primarily perform at fairs and festivals and corporate events, company parties, things like that. I've been performing professionally for around 26 years, 27 years. I'm doing my comedy juggling show around 20 of those years.
The inevitable question is, and I always ask, is how did you get started doing this?
How did I get started doing? I learned to juggle in high school. I worked at a restaurant, and a guy that worked there with me also worked at an amusement park, and he learned to juggle, running the games at amusement park. And I saw him doing it, and he taught me how to juggle using oranges and rolls in the restaurant. And that's how I learned to juggle, and I liked it. I went home and practiced, and then for a few years I could only juggle 3 things, and eventually I saw that people did more with it than just, juggle 3 balls, and I got into it and learned how to juggle more. And then, that's how I learned to juggle. When I was about 21, I decided I wanted to be a clown. So I went through the phone book, because that's how old I am, and I started calling clown companies. And one of the clown companies, some of them would pick up the phone and they would said, "How do you go about being a clown? Do you hire clowns?" And one of the ladies like, "We don't hire lipstick clowns. Are you a lipstick clown?" And I'm thinking, I don't even know what a lipstick clown is. And then someone else called and I said, "How do you go about being a clown?" Or I called someone else. And the lady goes, "Well, you do this and this." And she gave me all these explanations for makeup and things like that. And then she responds with, "How tall are you?" And I said, 6 feet. And she goes, "How much do you weigh?" I'm like, "About 170. She goes, "Do you want a job dressing up as a Power Ranger doing kids' birthdays?" And I was like, "Yes, who wouldn't want that job? Of course I want that job." And then, I asked her, just curious, how much does it pay? And I was working at UPS at the time, making $8 an hour. And she responded, "Oh, you get 40 an hour." And I almost fell out of the chair. I didn't realize then it was 40 an hour for maybe 3 to 4 hours a week, but still it was great. And so I started off doing kids' birthday parties as a Power Ranger. And then I did a few other characters, a Barney and Batman. And I even dressed up as a gorilla once, went to a kid's party. All the kids started screaming and ran away. And I guess the mom learned you shouldn't hire a gorilla to come to a kid's party. And then I also put together a clown show, doing a little bit of magic and juggling. And I never really liked putting on clown makeup. I still don't. But I did like, what I discovered is I like being in front of people. Well, actually, I discovered I liked being in front of people when I was in junior high in a speech and drama class. I was on stage, and I just really enjoyed being in front of people. And I got to high school and took drama, and the kids in the drama class were really dramatic, and they really liked to be depressed and go around and have depressing lives and talk about how things were horrible and all that, and be all dramatic on stage, and that didn't interest me. So I was like, well, if this is what drama is, I'm not really interested. And then later I found out I could be on stage and just be goofy and have fun, and that was okay. And so I liked being in front of people. That's what I liked. I really enjoy that. And I learned that what I liked more than the magic and the makeup was the juggling. So I did a lot of I started putting together just a comedy juggling show, and I met a guy. I was hired to be a juggling clown on Touched by an Angel. Just an extra walk through this circus episode, juggling. And a guy I met there, who became a very good friend of mine, did stand-up comedy. And so I went out to his house, and we went out to an open mic together, and I did some stand-up comedy. And I was terrible, as everyone is when they first start doing stand-up comedy. But I started working in comedy clubs instead of just birthday parties. And I got better and better until I developed just a show that was comedy and juggling. So, and since then, I've been making a good part of my living doing shows and comedy shows. So I think that is how I got started.
Have you ever done anything else?
Have I ever done anything else? Well, I mean, currently I own a photo booth that I rent out to fairs. It's called the World's Funnest Photo Booth, and it takes pictures of you. It takes pictures of people. It's a green screen. It takes pictures of people riding like dolphins or bulls or dinosaurs or tigers or rocket ships or things like that. And I hire out for fairs. The fair pays me a flat rate. Then we come and the fair patrons get their picture taken on these things for free. So I do that now. I also book out other acts. For 23 years, I also rented out bounce houses and carnival games and did big events. COVID pretty well put an end to that. I decided when COVID happened, I looked at how much it would cost me to keep my shop and to keep the trucks insured and to pay for insurance and all that without having any work, and I decided it didn't make a lot of sense for me to stay open. So I closed the inflatable business and sold all my stuff. But I did that. When COVID was going on, I also got a job working for a company that helped high school athletes find opportunities to play in college. My son went through their program, and the guy who owned it called me and gave me a job because he knew I didn't have work at that moment. So I've done other things. That was the only time I ever had a full-time job that wasn't working for myself, was that company where I helped high school athletes. I worked for the company. I didn't work with the athletes directly. But
okay, so I have to ask, and I always do ask this too. Bad experiences. What's been your worst? What's been your best?
Bad experiences with
performing.
With performing. That's what you're asking. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, the thing is when I'm performing, I really don't like the situations that aren't ideal. I don't necessarily think of them as bad experiences. I think they're just good stories. They're just amusing. I was hired once to do a show, and it was for a group of people. It was a fundraiser for deaf people. The majority of the people there weren't deaf, so it was fine that I was speaking. But I showed up at the show, and it was at a park, and they told me they would have a stage. Well, I got there, and there was no stage. And the lady said, "Don't worry, my husband's bringing it," which immediately makes me go, "What? Your husband have a big truck with a trailer? Because the show's about an hour. It's going to start in an hour or so." And then he pulls up in a compact car, and he's like, "Yeah, the stage is in the trunk." Then he pulls out this little, 1 foot high by 2 foot wide by 3 foot wide, platform. And then she said the funniest thing. She goes, "Don't worry, that's only half of it." It's like, well, I can't work on a stage twice that big either. Which, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I do street shows, so I could perform on the ground, and that wasn't a problem. But I just found that really funny. I was hired once to open for a comedian at a ski resort, and it was a regular gig. It was when I was going to open mics at comedy clubs, and it was a regular gig that comedians went up and did in Utah. And they gave you, you go up and you get free cookies, and I got paid, I think, $20 or something. It wasn't anything great. And I asked my wife if she wanted to come. I'm like, "You want to come up to the ski resort with me? You get free cookies, just hang out, we'll be together. I'm only doing 15 minutes on stage." So I went up there. There was 5 people in the audience. I did 15 minutes to the audience just stared at me to total silence, not a single laugh. I went back, got off the stage, went and sat by my wife, and she looks at me and goes, "I want to throw up." That's just a funny story. So there's been lots of experiences that were, less than ideal. Showed up at a fair and performing for literally 3 kids and a chicken because one of them brought their chicken to the show. That's just funny. It's not. I still had fun.
I like to hear these stories. I get some nice, really weird stories from some of you entertainers. Okay, so what's the best time you think you've ever had?
The best experience I've had performing is I did a celebration of life party for a little boy that was dying from cancer. I was doing the show, and the kid was laughing, and everyone was laughing, and the kid's like, stop, I can't laugh, my head hurts. And I'm like, sorry, I'll try. And so he's like, it's okay, just don't be so, and kept going, and he laughed some more, and then at the end of the show, the parents came up, and was just like, thank you so much for doing this. He laughed. I'm like, well, I'm glad he laughed, and I'm glad he laughed. That's kind of the goal of my show, is to get people laughing. They go, no, you don't understand. He hasn't laughed in months. And so that was the best experience I've ever had performing. I've had thousands of great good experiences, but that by far is the most meaningful one to me.
So you must be doing okay. You got 4 kids. Do any of the kids do or show inclinations to doing what you are doing?
No, I got a daughter who's a teacher in San Jose. I got a son who's going to nursing school in St. Louis. He played college basketball out there. His big claim to fame is he had a 62-point game. I got a son who's a skateboarder and also makes videos. He's working for a Facebook ad company now. He makes videos for them and on his own. And I got a daughter who's 15, and she enjoys singing and musical theater, and so she would be the closest, but a couple of my kids can juggle. I don't think any of them have any interest in making a living as a performer.
No child wants to do what usually their parent does.
I think that depends. I've seen a lot of kids go in performing, go into their parents. I am not bothered that they don't want to do that. I like doing it. Different performers are different. Not everybody. Most people don't like getting in front of people. Most people don't like that. Most people, juggling isn't something they look at as something that you should spend a lot of time working at, or yo-yos are just looked at like a party favor, not something that you spend hours practicing, things like that. So I get my hobbies are different than most people. The things I enjoy are different than most people, and that's fine.
I've met a lot of jugglers throughout the years that I've been interviewing. Okay, so you've performed a lot of places. So where would you like to perform that you haven't had the opportunity to?
Well, I don't anywhere. I don't know. I'd love to get more busker festivals, work more busker festivals. Those are a lot of fun. I would love to do more of the bigger fairs. I don't mind doing small fairs. I enjoy them. They're fun, but it's always more fun to have 300 people in your audience than 10 people in your audience.
So are you a grounds act? Are you a grounds act too?
I do strolling as well. I can do strolling. I can do a street show or a circle show. People call it, I guess, in the fair industry, it's called a grounds act. But basically, I go out on the fair, and I'll just set a speaker down and do a show right on the, the grounds, which is different than strolling. It's not just walking around on stilts. I do that as well, but it's, actually putting on a show, gathering a crowd and putting on a show just out in the grounds. So yes, I do that. I consider that a street show, something that a busker street performer would do just out on the street. Yeah, okay. I do that. I do that in both. Sure.
Do you write your own jokes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you must always have been pretty good at it, right? You just kept getting better and better?
Well, it's a skill you learn like every other skill. I suppose some people are naturally inclined to be, some people are more naturally inclined to be funny or to be in front of people or more naturally inclined to do whatever. But there isn't a single person in the world who started out just being a good comedian. You know, there isn't a comedian out there that didn't have to get on stage and hone their skills.
Okay.
The first time everyone goes up in a comedy club at an open mic or goes out to do a street show or whatever, they are terrible. It's a skill you have to learn how to do. And so, unfortunately, way too many acts never figure that out, but that they need to, you know, just because they're on stage doesn't mean it's good. You have to learn, you have to pay attention to what worked, what didn't, and, you know, try to get better.
So do you work in all 50 states?
I will travel anywhere if you pay me enough.
Overseas?
Well, of course. I'll go wherever if it's, you know, if I'm paid enough and it's a safe situation. Sure. But I haven't worked in all 50 states. I've worked in a lot of them, but I've you know, I will. I primarily market myself to fairs in you know, in the Western United States.
Okay.
But sure, I would. I mean, I've started to go into the International Association Fairs, IAFE convention, and so hopefully I'll get some. Hopefully I'll get some more fairs that are, you know, back east or whatever. But like, if I'm busy, you know, the standard fair season from, you know, most of July through September, then in the Western United States, then I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to, you know, travel to New York and try to do shows there, right? During that time.
There's a lot more people in New York. Okay, so, well, you need to tell people how they reach you.
funnymanwhodoostricks.com. That's my website. That's the best way, just funnymanwhodoostricks.com.
Okay, I have enjoyed talking to you, and we've exchanged a few things, and I learned a few things. Thank you very much for the interview.
Okay, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.